right, part number 2. So we left off at question number 10, where you're supposed to do the ionic names of these compounds and formulas. So the first one there, you're supposed to put together Ga and O. So we have Ga and O. So you have to go to the periodic table and identify that Ga is a positive 3, O is a negative 2. Those charges don't cancel each other, so I have to do the crisscross method. And remember, in the crisscross method, I'm going to ignore these charges, and I'm just going to take the number, and I put 3 here, and I put 2 there, so I crisscross those numbers. So that turns out to be the formula, all right, really without the numbers on top. So it's Ga2O3. And then what's the name? Well, this is gallium. This is oxygen. So we have gallium, and then the oxygen becomes oxide. So it's gallium oxide is the name. All right. Next one, we'll go down in the squares. So the next one we have K and Se. So potassium is +1, Se is -2. Those guys don't cancel each other. So I crisscross it. 2 goes here, 1 goes over there. But remember, in chemistry, we don't write 1, so this becomes K2Se. What's the name? Potassium and selenium, but it becomes selenide. So it's potassium selenide. All right, next one, Sr and Cl. So Sr is a +2, Cl is -1. Those don't cancel each other. Crisscross them. I bring the 2 over here. I end up with SrCl2. Then what's the name? Strontium chloride is the name. All right. Now we'll do the other side column. So we got Na. Then we have sulfate. Oh, it ends in 8. So that means, remember, you got to go to this chart here, that polyatomic ion chart, and look up sulfate. And sulfate happens to be SO4, which is -2. This guy is +1. Well, those don't cancel each other, so crisscross it. The 2 comes over here. We end up with Na2SO4. If you want to help you, you can put this in parentheses. You don't need the parentheses, but you can put parentheses around it if it helps you visualize it. Now, what's the name? Sodium. And then you keep the name from the polyatomic ion chart as sulfate, so it's sodium sulfate. Next one, we got Al, and then we're supposed to have nitrite. So again, look at that polyatomic ion chart, and you get NO2. Don't get it confused with nitrate. Nitrate is NO3. This is nitrite. So now numbers or charges, this is +3, this guy's -1. Those don't cancel, so I need to bring the 3 over here, but this time I need this in parentheses and the 3 on the outside. So it's Al, NO2, 3. And then the 1 goes over here, but remember I don't write the 1, so it's just Al. What's the name? Aluminum nitrite. Now we got one more in the ionic ones. And we got Ca and N. Well, Ca is +2, N is -3. So I crisscross those, I get a 3 and a 2. And then what's the name? This is calcium, this is nitrogen, but we name it nitride. So it becomes calcium nitride. So those are the names for those ones. All right, now we go on to number 11. Switch my page. 11, we're supposed to do molecular compounds. In molecular compounds, you need that list that gives you the mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, and deca. Those are the prefixes that we're going to use. So the first one we have N2O5. Well, I'll write this up here real quick. We got N2O5. So the first thing is nitrogen, but we got to indicate that it has a 2 by putting a di in front of it. So it becomes dinitrogen. And then we have oxygen, which is oxide. Well, we got to put a 5, indicate the 5, so it's pentaoxide. So this is dinitrogen pentaoxide. Dinitrogen pentaoxide. Next one underneath that said P5Br2. So that's pentaphosphorus dibromide. Pentaphosphorus dibromide. Then go up to the other right-hand side, C3Cl7. Well, C3 is tricarbon. And then we got Cl7 is heptachloride. Remember that the second one always ends in ide. First one is just the name. Right? And the one time when you don't put a prefix, if there's only one. I didn't have any samples of that one, but think of the idea of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is CO2. Now that first one, it's only got one. We don't call it monocarbon dioxide. It's just carbon dioxide. So the first one's got 1, you don't put a mono in front of it. That's the only one that you only situation where you don't put a prefix. All right, last one in this group, we have Se2I3. This is diselenium triiodide. Diselenium triiodide. Now, all of these are molecular, so from a question earlier, these are all made up of 2 nonmetals. All right, number 12. Now we're supposed to name some acids. I'll do these up here. First one, we got to do nitric acid. Well, you look at the ending, it ends in ick. So remember my little trick on this was you ate something icky. So all acids start with hydrogen. So we got hydrogen. We got to rename these ionically. That's hydrogen. And then we go nitra. And then 8 something icky. So the ending on this is 8. So it's hydrogen nitrate when we name it ionically. And once I name it ionically, then I'm just going to do this and write it out like we did earlier in number 10. So we got hydrogen, and that's a +1. And then we got nitrate, that comes from the polyatomic ion chart, and that's NO3, and that's a -1. Hey, those cancel each other, so I just end up with a formula, HNO3. So that's the formula for nitric acid, is HNO3. All right. Let's go to the next one, which happens to be hydrosulfuric. Hydrosulfuric acid. So this one ends in ick, but it also starts with hydro. So because it starts with hydro, we're talking about ide instead, because it's hydro blank ick. If it's hydro and blank ick, then it ends in ide. If it ends in if it ends in aus, then it's ite. If it ends in ick only, then it's ate. Now hopefully you remember all these. You gotta look back at your notes to see these. All right. So this one's hydroblankic, so that means it's hydrogen, because they all start with hydrogen. Then we have sulf, because that's the root part in the middle. And because it's hydroic, it ends in ide. So it's hydrogen sulfide. Now I'll write my formula. Hydrogen is +1. Sulfide, that's sulfur, and that's a -2. Crisscross this, and I end up with a formula of H2S. It's the formula for this acid. All right, that concludes those acids. All right, we're going to stop there, and then now we're going to do the balancing equations in part number 3. So I'll see you in part number 3 in a moment.